Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we have a guest speaker on, and we are going to talk about how to make Halloween better choices so that they're healthier for your kids. I have Jill Bucaro on. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And Jill is an integrative health practitioner and owner of the company Wellness Riot. She works with individuals and families to address a variety of health-related issues. She focuses on making small changes that have a big impact and lead to improvements that stand the test of time. So I am so excited to have Jill on today, especially as we come into October, and now we do need to think about Halloween, which of course is one of my favorite holidays, but also not the healthiest. So I would love to hear what Jill has to say. So my first question to you, Jill, is what are the biggest challenges or struggles that you've experienced yourself, or maybe that you've seen parents experience when it comes to kids and eating healthy?
This is a great question, and there's a few things. And first of all, I want to say I have been there. So these struggles that I'm sharing are what I experienced as a parent as well. So one is, I think we don't give our kids enough credit for their palate. We've been taught that they just like mac and cheese and Crestless PB&Js. So we give them that, and then guess what? That's what they want. So I think most of us would be surprised, not only by what our kids will try, but what they'll actually enjoy. And we're not really even giving them that chance. Another one is that we set up healthy food as the bad guy and sugary foods as the treat, right? We say, eat your broccoli, then you can have the cookie. And we're kind of guilty, totally. So we're kind of telling them that the vegetable or whatever it is that we want them to eat is the chore or the have to, or, the bad guy, and the cookie is the reward or the prize or the treat. So we're kind of setting them up to think about food in the wrong way with regards to like why we want to eat, what we want to eat. And, the truth is junk food is everywhere. It's at every checkout stand, and not only at grocery stores, but Targets and hardware stores and office supply stores and every event and schools and camps and birthday parties. So it's hard to avoid, which is, a legitimate challenge. And I think in addition, we don't really see the effects immediately of what these kind of junkier foods do to our kids. I mean, sometimes we do, like most parents know what their kids look like on too much sugar. But other than that, stretching it out to what the long-term effects are, it's easy to be disconnected. So it's hard to make decisions now that, may or may not impact our kids decades down the line.
Oh, yes. And I'm completely guilty of what you just said. I'm sitting here going, oh, I'm embarrassed. That's exactly me. But I could totally see how I set my own kids up for, I don't want to say like failure, because it's not really failure, but, the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And now I realize that I'm going to be taking responsibility for that. Uh-oh.
I know. We got to go back to us. Oh, gosh.
And Halloween, I mean, it's all around candy. That's what it's centered around. So what are some examples of ingredients or foods that have a negative impact on your kids? Obviously, candy's one of them, but what else can you say?
Yeah, so I want to kind of break down like what's in candy, since we are getting to the most candy-centric holiday, but it's more, the devil's in the details here. So one would be artificial coloring. So this would be seen on a label as like blue number 1, red number 40, something like that. And they're in our foods that are brightly colored, like candy and cereals and drinks, the purples, the blues, the bright red, like the colors that aren't found in nature. But even some tan foods like crackers and frozen waffles will have artificial coloring. And these have been linked to hyperactivity, allergic reactions. Another thing to note is that these have been banned in a lot of other countries. So Kraft macaroni and cheese, for example, is a different formula here in the United States than it is in Europe, because those artificial colors have been banned. So just something to consider, something to keep in mind. And along with the artificial theme, artificial flavoring is another thing to watch out for. So we're going to think lots and lots of chemicals. There's about 2,000 chemicals that can be used to flavor food, and most of them have not been thoroughly tested for safety. Even in a single product, there can be up to 200 chemicals behind the ingredient artificial flavor. Could you imagine if they had to like list all of that on the package? There'd be no room for even the name of the product. And the problem with the artificial colors and flavors is that they're really toxins. They're seen by our bodies as toxin. And so they can affect us in just about every way. And the impact is bigger on kids because of their size. So if I have a handful of candy with artificial flavors and colors, and my son, who's 52 pounds, has that same handful, it's going to have a bigger impact on him than me. And then sugar. I mean, we all know, I think to some extent, too much sugar is bad, but something to note is that there's at least 60 names for sugar. So not only the obvious ones that we would see, cane sugar, beet sugar, but things like maltodextrin, barley malt, brown rice syrup, golden syrup, sorbitol. So we can see, several different kinds of sugar on a package and not even see the word sugar, so it can make it really difficult to navigate an ingredient label, to understand what we're really giving our kiddos.
And are all those just on the label? That's what we should be looking at, the ingredients of our food.
Exactly, the ingredients. And, one of the things with having so many different names for sugar is that it allows these food companies to move them down the line of the ingredient list, right? So the ingredients are listed in order of predominance. So the first ingredient is going to be what's in, what makes up most of that product. Well, if they just put sugar, it would probably be number one, like in granola bars or cereals or, crackers. But because they can name it a few different things, they can move it down the line to like ingredient maybe 3, 5, and 6. And so when you're a parent, you're looking at the label, you're like, oh, whole grain oats. Well, that sounds good. Meanwhile, there's, 4 or 5 different types of sugar in it. It's just listed separately. And yeah, and the sugar's been shown to drive inflammation, which is associated with an increased risk of all kinds of things like obesity and diabetes and heart disease. And we're seeing those at younger and younger ages. So really something to be mindful about with our kids.
Absolutely. Thank you for all of this. So what would you suggest that we do then about this phenomenon? I mean, if most of what the labels are saying are deceptive, and I puts me at a loss as a parent. What do I do?
Yeah. It's kind of by design, I think, that we feel overwhelmed because then we're just going to pick whatever's easiest, whatever they like, because we don't really know. They're kind of counting on our confusion. So here's a couple things that you can do like today, this week, to start moving and taking steps towards, positive results. So one is that we can find better versions of what they like. So we might not be able to get them to stop wanting candy today, but we can give them treats with better ingredients. So that Halloween article that I'm including for everybody here breaks down some really great companies that are making treats and candies and snacks that are more naturally sweetened or organic ingredient, or they don't have those artificial flavors and colors. So that's a great place to start. We move them to a better version of what they already like. Next is that we as parents need to eat better ourselves, right? We need to model that. And if we already are eating healthy, that's great. We just need to talk to them about it in a positive way. So like I was saying, before, we don't really give them enough credit. We need to start saying things like, oh my gosh, this roasted broccoli is so good. You have to taste this delicious tomato from the garden. And so we need to expose them to a bunch of different foods. Will they like everything? Not a chance. But I think most of us would be surprised again by like what not only they'll try, but what they enjoy. And this did work on my son. It didn't work in one meal. It didn't work in 1 week. But over time, he really was like, oh, you guys really seem to be enjoying those vegetables. Like, what's that all, hoopla about over there? And he really did start to experiment. And now that's part of his regular diet.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but the role modeling is huge. It's part of being an impactful parent is to role model of all the behaviors that you want your kids to do. There is no way a kid is going to jump on board with something that you are not able to do yourself. There's no way, especially teenagers. But
oh my gosh, watch your every move at a young age too. I mean, they're watching what you do and not what you say. So that's, if you want to know what you do and how you behave and what you say, just ask your child because they'll mirror it every day of the week.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Anyone last suggestion for us?
Yeah. The last thing is when in doubt, always lean towards whole, unprocessed foods. So the more like nature it is, the more our bodies know what to do with it. Anything we put in our mouths goes through our digestive tract, and it's either going to affect it positively or negatively. And I know today, especially, the immune system is a big topic. Well, 70% of our immune system lives in or around our gut. So we should always be supporting the immune system and just keeping in mind anything that we put in that affects our gut is going to affect our immune system. And I think we've seen that this year, like what a healthy immune system versus a comprised immune system can mean for everyday health and for the long term. But just really like things without an ingredient label is actually ideal.
Absolutely, yes. That's obvious, and yet it's such a good reminder.
I know. It seems like too simple. Like it can't just be that simple.
Can you briefly tell us a little bit more about this freebie that you are including in our interview today?
Yes. So this is an article that lists, it kind of goes into more detail about what I just was mentioning. So what are some of the ingredients to avoid? What are some of the companies that are really doing great things? And especially for Halloween, some candy companies that are using like whole ingredients, organic ingredients that you can feel a lot better about giving to your kids. And they taste great. These peanut butter cups taste really amazing, but they don't have as much, junk and preservatives and all that kind of stuff in it. And then some just ideas, if you do get candy or you don't want to give out candy, what are some alternatives? What can you do with this giant heap of candy that you have, to exchange it or give it to a good cause? So just some bullet points and kind of how to do Halloween a little bit healthier.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, because yes,
so
my
welcome.
favorite holiday, but it does come with a lot of unhealthy habits, I have to admit.
It
so
does.
If my audience would like to get a hold of you and just get more information from you, how would they be able to do that?
Absolutely. So my website is wellnessriot.com. That's Riot, R-I-O-T. So Riot as in like it's a lot of fun. And there you'll find my links to my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube channel, articles that I've written. And I offer always a 30-minute free consult. So if any families are interested in learning a little bit more, finding out like how maybe we can make some changes, I'm all about the small steps, over time that have a big impact, not turning your world upside down. But all of that's on wellnessriot.com.
So if you want to get a hold of Jill Bucaro, please do so. And thank you so much for being on The Impactful Parent today, Jill.
You are so very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.